There's something attractive about private equity. Look at the public marketplace. There are probably half as many listed companies today as there were a dozen years ago. And there's a reason for that, because when you're a public company, you really have to be focused on short-term quarterly results. And when you're owned by private equity, you could take a longer-term view.
Although some people say that private equity firms are simply marking the values of some of these companies at higher levels, and then when they choose to go public, you start to see sort of a check on that. And we've seen that with WeWork, we've seen that with Smile Direct, and you know, I just have to wonder, do you think that that's a valid concern, or do you think that it really is much more idiosyncratic than that?
Listen, you know, the examples that you gave with some of these companies, there's definitely been a bit of a sea change. The public markets are looking for a path to profitability. They're no longer interested in companies that don't make money and maybe will never make money. So there's a different lens with regard to what public markets are demanding.
When you talk about private equity and how they really have to do better and provide more value, are there industries right now that seem ripe for embetterment that private equity firms are targeting to go after and get more involved in?
Yeah, the truth is they're looking at opportunities across all industries of the economy. There's some industries that are sort of favorites right now. For example, the manufacturing sector, because there's so much change, and the ability to apply automation to that industry makes it very appealing. But the reality is it's not really about industry. It's about finding energized management teams with a great vision for driving those businesses forward. That's what private equity is looking for.
What's the concern about the political ramifications when you get involved in a sector such as manufacturing, which has certainly been on the front burner when it comes to some of these debates?
Yeah, well, listen, the private equity industry has been used like a piñata by the politicians. And it drives me a bit crazy, because I really think that they're a great industry and bring a lot of value. The issue around buying manufacturing firms is, again, that old reputation of private equity firms basically being stripping and dumping the companies that they invested. That happens to some extent today, but that's not really what motivates them today. So they're focused on growing those businesses, on transforming them, and allowing them to thrive in the new economy.
One thing that I know that you've touched on in some of your research is potential consolidation, because there are the winners and there are the losers within the private equity universe, with the outperformers and the underperformers. How big of a consolidation are you expecting?
Well, the industry will continue to consolidate, there's no question, but the way it's going to consolidate, in my view, is around two themes. One, some firms will become global, large capital providers with different types of strategies, capital strategies, and then there will be other firms that won't be as big, but will focus on specializing in some way, like industry, for example. So financial service-oriented private equity firms. If you're not in one of those two buckets, you're going to have a tough time.
One sort of notable development that we've seen is, as you mentioned, public markets have been shrinking, and fewer companies are choosing to actually have an initial public offering and are doing so later. And I'm wondering whether you think that in some ways this is a trend that will continue, with a lot of companies simply choosing to remain private forever, because there seems to be ample capital there and they don't have to deal with the quarterly shareholder reports, et cetera.
Absolutely. I think you will continue to see that for quite some time, because the capital is there. It's very liquid. There's always another private equity firm ready to invest in your business if you can articulate the next chapter of growth for your firm. So there's a lot of capital out there, and it's a good well to go to grow your business.